afternoon, everybody. And today we're going to be talking with Dave Werner from Adobe. And Dave is one of the experts with Character Animator. He does a lot of videos, he does a lot of trainings, and he's directly involved with that team on the content side and the education and training side. So I'm very pleased to talk with him. We're going to be talking, basically taking an in-depth look at Character Animator, talking with Dave a little bit about his background and how Character Animator came about, what problems it was designed to solve, how it works, what it can do, and what it can't do. For our learning session today, which will be at the end of the show, and in a separate video if you're watching this later, we're going to actually get a hands-on tutorial on how to rig a puppet in Character Animator. So all of you will have some basic skills on how to use this really cool new tool with your own live content. Stick around. It's another episode of Wirecast Live. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Wirecast Live. I'm your host, Andrew Haley, the product evangelist for Wirecast here at Telestream. And every Thursday, we do a live show for you and for the purposes of talking about all things related to live streaming, live video, live production. You can find us here every week on Thursdays, 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Periscope. If you want to subscribe to those channels to find out when we are live, to get notified, you can subscribe to them, click the like button, share these if you are, people who want to watch this stuff. We are doing great tutorials, tips, tricks, and bringing on exciting guests every week. So you can find us on Facebook at Telestream's Wirecast, on Twitter at Wirecast, or on YouTube at WirecastTube. That is also where you can find all of our past episodes and get a ton of content and training. So we hope to see you next week, and of course bring some friends if you think this is up their alley. And on that note, there are a few news and announcements before I bring on our guest for this episode, Dave from Adobe. We are going to be a couple things you need to know about. So we have some upcoming shows. Speaking of upcoming shows, with some really cool guests. On next week, we have Jenny Quinn from the JennyQ show. She is going to be coming on and talking all about how to interview people. She does a great weekly variety and talk interview show on Facebook, and she does a fantastic job of bringing on guests, talking about them. So I'll be sitting down with her, talking a little bit about her secret sauce and how she gets great interviews and keeps the content fresh every week. For those of you who are thinking of starting your own show or doing something in a particular area of interest to you, that might be a good one for you to watch to get some basic information on how to sort of present yourself on camera and then how to get the most out of an interview or a guest. Followed by that, I'll be talking with Ryan Jespersen up to my left here, or on the left side, the right side of the screen there. He is from Wowza, and we'll be talking about do-it-yourself streaming. So nothing is better for controlling how you stream, where you stream, and what you can deliver to, and the formats, and all kinds of stuff than using a Wowza server. You have so much control. We use Wowza servers here for some of the stuff we do, and I could talk more about that with Ryan, and you'll get some, again, another little hands-on look at Wowza and how you can make it work. So really a get started with do-it-yourself streaming and some of the advantages that you can do with that. So it's very useful. And then finally, Paul Richards from PTZOptics is going to be coming on. And Paul and I are going to be talking about a bunch of stuff, some things to do with YouTube, and also he'll be giving us a learning session on how to bring in live YouTube comments onto your screen and displaying them in real time. So this is just sort of a new thing YouTube is now enabling through their API. Paul and I are going to sit down. He'll give you a hands-on lesson on how to do that, as well as we'll be talking about some things like NDI cameras and so forth. So we have a great next few episodes for you, so you're definitely going to want to tune in. If you haven't watched, if you're looking forward to these next shows, it's going to be really good. Now, we also have some live events coming up, so you'll want to know about those. We have a couple shows next month in June, we are going to be at Infocom on June 14th through the 16th at down in Orlando, Florida. Our booth number is 387. And then at the end of the month, we'll be at ISTE in San Antonio. And I should be going to that. And so we should have some cool announcements and giveaways and things going on at that show. If you're in the education space or if you plan on being at that show, I hope to see you there. And then finally, there's a Back to Basic ScreenFlow webinar for those of you who want to bone up on your ScreenFlow skills, which is a very, very cool tool for you video editors and Mac users out there that we couldn't do without. We do a lot of our own content with here. So that's the news for this show, and we will keep you posted with more. You can always go to telestream.net/events to catch the latest information for upcoming live shows, register for any webinars that look interesting to you, as well as any special upcoming live shows or guests that we have. So that's the news. And without further ado, I'd like to bring on our special guest for the episode, Dave Werner from Adobe. Dave, you are joining us from Zoom. There you are. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing well, Andrew. Good to see you again. How are you?
Good to see you. And you are coming to us from the Bay Area at your offices down there at Adobe, right?
That is correct. Yeah, currently I'm in San Jose, and they just redesigned these floors, and there's still some construction going on. So I apologize if you hear jackhammers or people yelling and that sort of stuff.
It must be a little tricky to work. So you just moved new offices. How are you liking them? They're a little bit bigger, more spacious than your previous ones?
Yeah, it's definitely nice. I haven't hung up my Tron poster yet back here, so that's the next step.
You haven't moved in until you've hung your Tron poster.
Exactly.
That's just a rule.
Exactly. So, but slowly but surely. No, but it's great. They've been able to. It's just nice to have a kind of a more modern office setting. It was definitely in need of an upgrade. And one of the cool things is I got to help design some of the wallpaper and decorations. So there's a 29-foot wall out here with a robot walk cycle throwing out flamethrowers and having a sword come out. So that was a fun project to work on.
Awesome. I actually watched your demo video. I think you gave it NAB on your robot with the swords and flamethrowers. It was very cool.
Yes. Thank you.
So Dave, for those who don't know you, I think we should kind of introduce you. You and I met actually at NAB. We were both kind of giving respective demos for our products. I was on the Wirecast side of things. You were on the Character Animator side, and we can now talk to each other through the Mercury Transmit plugin for Character Animator and through NDI.
Yes.
Which is over the network stuff. So that's really exciting to me because, that's what we focused our latest update around in Wirecast. And now the fact that you can use live animation stuff into, Wirecast and stream it out live is just so cool because that's something that just was not possible before. And so this, I think, was sort of the basis for how we met and started talking. So I really wanted to have you on the show to kind of talk a little bit more about Character Animator and what you're doing and stuff. But before we get into that, can you explain a little bit about your background, who you are, how you got here, how did you come to work for Adobe, and what's your training and background in?
Sure. So basically I joined Adobe about 5 years ago, and I initially worked on the Premiere Clip team. That's a mobile video editing app, and that was the first product I worked on. And then I heard about this kind of secret project that was going on for this new performance capture animation tool. It was codenamed Animal. And I got on the beta. It sounded like a cool idea, just started making characters and testing and having a lot of fun with it, and maybe even a few little tutorial videos once it got into an open beta. And then eventually I was lucky enough that a design position opened up and was able to join the team. But before that, jumped around a lot, did, several different startup companies, a few video game startup companies before joining. Went to a graduate school called Portfolio Center in Atlanta, Georgia, which is a 2-year design graduate program. And that's when I really got interested in particularly interactive UI UX design. And so that kind of allowed me a fun environment to just kind of learn all the basics and fundamentals of design and come out with a portfolio and get my foot in the door in the industry. So just worked out. The Adobe connection was just, I reached out when I was looking for a job to a guy who had blogged about my portfolio. This guy John Knack, who used to be a PM of Photoshop. and now works for Google, and just got lucky. It was the right place, right time. There was a design opening, and yeah.
That's awesome. So, your training's sort of in formal design and sort of, art, and you've done a ton of drawing and sort of creative type of work throughout your life, and I'm sure just as a hobby on the side. In fact, you post a lot of cool videos that you do just sort of as fun projects on the side. And I'm sure that really influences the way you approach your work. What are you sort of focused on specifically within the UX, and the user experience in Adobe Character Animator? Kind of what's your sort of realm? Are you trying to look for how people can use the software more easily, or are you specifically looking more into the sort of the puppet rigging and that stuff? Or, is there some area you're most responsible for? Can we blame you if we're getting frustrated with how?
You can blame me for anything you want. Absolutely. I'll take it. No, it's, so we are a very small team, I a dozen or less people all told, working on Character Animator.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, just like in a startup, you have to wear a lot of different hats. Mm-hmm. So, UI UX is what it says on paper, and I am responsible for that, the design of how you get from point A to point B, working with the different teams at Adobe, branding, or the icons team, or the team that kind of does our internal design language. Lots of user testing to understand where people are getting stuck or trying new features on them, and seeing how they react. So it's a lot of that stuff, but then the job has also evolved into this, video production, public speaking, just a puppet creation, drawing, these assets. So, on any given day, it's always a surprise. I might be doing 20 different things, depending on what's required. So
Right.
It's fun. It keeps me on my toes, and it's a good creative challenge. And it feels, it's great that I'm on a small team where I feel like I've got a lot of creative freedom and responsibility, and ability to solve some really tough design issues that for a lot of things haven't been solved before, or approached before. It's kind of a new technology and new kind of thing, and so that's really cool to be a part of that. So it's I'm loving it here. Can't complain.
That's pretty awesome. So you are, so let's talk a little bit about Character Animator and as a program and as a philosophy of what's behind it. When did Character Animator start, and what was sort of the genesis behind its creation?
Yeah, so I wasn't there in the very early days, so I don't know exactly when it started, but I know it did start as an offshoot of the After Effects team. And there were several people who were working on researching new tools for After Effects. So things like the Roto Brush or some other stuff that have been integrated and do really basically like magical stuff, things that just used to be really, really difficult to do, but then you just, with Roto Brush, you just brush over something and it, extracts it from a video. That's something really difficult to do, but they seem to make it look easy. And so that team was interested and started researching character animation. After Effects has a lot of character animation possibilities, but it was never originally designed for that. And the thought was, well, can we bring character animation in particular, more accessible to more people? Animation has always had a very high barrier to entry, very time consuming. But there's a lot of people out there who can draw really well or have great ideas, that with animation, with a cartoon character, you can do anything. They can transform into a zombie, their head can explode, you can be a talking T-Rex with an eye patch, whatever you want. And that leads to a lot of really cool possibilities. Everyone's drawing style, it's like their handwriting. Everyone's got a unique voice and style. And so the team started doing some initial experiments with that, and they really latched onto this idea of performance capture, that instead of fiddling around with keyframes and some traditional animation things, that you're just acting and talking. And if you're able to do that with Character Animator, you move your eyes, your character moves. As you talk, the lip sync is automatically happening, and so you basically are translated into an animated character. So it's a process that's been going on for several years now. The beta we released about 2 years ago, I think, is when we opened up as a public beta 2 or 3 years ago. And since then, the feedback's been great. There's been a lot of just really cool things that have happened along the way, milestones of, like The Simpsons using Character Animator to do their Homer live episode. That was a complete shock and surprise to us. And it was awesome to work with those guys. And, we kind of thought, oh yeah, our first foray into television is probably going to be a small commercial or something like that. And then wait, oh no, the longest running animated, American sitcom of all time is going to be the first use of character.
Yeah.
So
that's absolutely amazing that happened, because I actually want to show people a quick clip of this. We have this here on my desktop. So, because one of the first things that occurred to me with Character Animator was that brands like, The Simpsons or Mr. Bean or, Disney or something might want to have their characters live interacting with fans, and your technology was making that possible. So here is an actual live show that The Simpsons did where Homer's taking questions and answering questions of fans in the moment. Now, I think there's all these pre-recorded sort of things going on just to keep it interesting, right? Like that stuff all looks pre-canned. That's so cool. And so it was, what was the response on this? This was what, so May, last year, 1 year ago. How many people tuned in for this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the exact numbers, but that definitely helped put us on the map and get some street cred. So I know, a lot of people, in the early days, it was like, oh, what is this toy? What are they doing? This is it. And then I think once people got past that and understood the kind of the benefits of what this idea of live animation can do, animation is a multifaceted thing. We are another tool in the toolbox, and a lot of animators are probably going to use multiple tools to get the job done. But we're doing things in a slightly different way and giving kind of a new avenue to animation. And I think The Simpsons, Late Show with Stephen Colbert as well, have done some pushed in interesting new directions that have caught a lot of people's attention.
Yeah, so the Stephen Colbert, you mentioned that's another big win and success for you guys. The animated characters that he brings on the show and then interviews are actually being controlled live by a puppeteer and then answering questions with a voice actor or something. So, an impersonator of some kind. So they've done Donald Trump, they've done Hillary Clinton. I think they did an owl, I think you said.
Yep.
Owly, for tips of that. Let's see if I could pull up that clip here that you had from, I think, right here on your blog. So this was sort of the Late Show, the animated Donald Trump thing. Looks like we may have to go through a little ad here. I'm going to pull this full screen here.
Oh, this is a behind the scenes,
this is
actually.
Behind the scenes, okay. Right.
Yeah.
So this is the team just going over how they did it, right? And talking about the characters. And here's a shot of Colbert sitting with an animated, looks like an animated version of himself, like a hobo version of himself.
I think that was a Irish ancestor or something like that, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, you can see the resemblance. It's really well edited.
Yeah.
And then you got him talking to animated Donald Trump, and they're interacting like live. He's trying to get him to take a pen or something. That's so cool. And then they've got it looks like the Hillary Clinton doing a like a high five, that kind of stuff.
So it's
here we go.
Yeah.
Ads, man. All right.
Yeah.
So here, let's see. Here is Steven talking with animated Hillary Clinton. So how did this work? I mean, were you guys having to? This must have been a little scary for them, right? And when you have this many people watching and this high stakes of an environment, everything kind of has to go right?
Yeah. And particularly some of the Hillary stuff that was done live, not even a tape delay, because they were live after the Democratic National Conventions, I believe. So, it's kind of high pressure. But luckily they have a really talented team up there. Tim, the artist who's in that behind the scenes video, is just phenomenally talented. I think without someone like him, this stuff could have never happened. But he heard about it. He saw an opportunity and said, hey, this is a great idea. They were kind of among the first to do that mix of live action with an animated character, and again, that's led to a lot of one of the Trump things. He bursts out of his skin and turns into a butterfly. It's these things that you can't do with live action. You can only do with a cartoon, and it's leading to some really cool creative possibilities. And actually, if you watch the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, you'll notice they use character. There's a lot of subtle things they may use it for. Little animated questions. It's not always the live thing, but there's little animated shorts they do and other things, and it's awesome. We've given them basically a workflow that allows them to really quickly, sometimes they only have a few hours to get something done before going live on air. Doing with traditional animated methods may be more time consuming and cumbersome and difficult. But luckily with Character Animator, they're able to do, a lot of this new stuff and add animated aspects into the show easier. So that's been great to see.
That's really cool. So, and that's actually something we can kind of talk about and lead into sort of what it can do and what it can't do. It's clearly designed to do this motion capture sort of integration into a puppet. So you're doing, face, voice, you're doing eyes and image recognition, and then mapping those actions to a 2D puppet. So first, we should be clear: it doesn't really do three-dimensional puppets at this point. It's just a two-dimensional animator, right?
Right. Yeah. So some people have kind of pushed the boundaries of what's possible, but basically at the basic layer, it takes any Photoshop or Illustrator file and animates that. And basically, if you tag things a certain way, left eyebrow, right pupil, mouth, that sort of stuff, that's something that translates into an animated character. So, traditionally, a lot of people will, and the majority of the work we see is 2D animation. Some people, though, will create things in a 3D program and then bring them in as flat Photoshop or files, and then just tag the layers a certain way. We've also seen people take pictures like claymation style stuff and put that together, or little puppet scale model puppets and that sort of thing. So people are taking whatever you can throw into a PSD or AI file and making it, trying to really push the boundaries. So we've seen everything from children's scribbles, drawings to full physical kind of stop motion style animation. So, and everything in between. So it's cool, but full 3D animation and stuff like that. No, currently we're primarily a 2D supported product.
Yeah, and I think there's some examples here of what people are doing, where they're starting with a three-dimensional puppet of some kind and then bringing it into Character Animator and being able to animate it so it looks three-dimensional. It's just still the same principles are being applied in 2D through the Character Animator program. And so one great example that you mentioned, I'll pull this up for folks to look at, was the digitalpuppets.co.uk. They do a lot of 3D style puppets. You can see here this floating 3D head with the look glasses on. They even sell puppets. They make custom puppets, or they'll build you your own custom one that you can use, and you can buy from their store of existing puppets. They're actually turning this into a business.
Yeah, it's been awesome to see this. These are these two brothers in the UK who saw an opportunity and have jumped on it, and it's been a tremendous success for them. They're doing a ton of custom puppets. For example, Twitch video game live streamers. They do a ton of work for them. A live streamer who, instead of having their face in the corner, they want to be a dragon or a robot or an alien or something like that. And these guys help them create those puppets. So it's awesome to see that sort of thing. We're starting to see more of this, where people are starting to sell their services. They're either rigging or puppet creation, or even individual parts in their store. They've got the mouths and eyes and things like that you could buy and integrate into your character. So that's really cool to see that kind of this burgeoning, marketplace start to show up. And I think that's something we hope to continue to embrace and make that even easier for people to be a part of in the future.
That's so cool. And so there's also another one that you mentioned was the stop motion. So let's take a moment just to look at that one. This is physically shaped. This team, they're in the Emeryville or the Bay Area. They actually do stop motion animation. They physically kind of carve or shape these puppets. Like this girl here, her name, what's the name of this puppet? Is it Abby?
Maddie.
Maddie. Okay, Maddie.
Maddie, yeah.
So Maddie here is actually a physical doll, or stop motion puppet, and then they take photographs of her doing different actions. They shape different mouth shapes for her, different expressions. They take photographs of each of those and bring those, kind of separate them out into different elements that then Character Animator can animate onto the doll in a digital workflow, right?
Yeah, so these guys are great. Athena Studios in Emeryville, and that character is an actual 8-inch physical doll. That was in a stop motion short that they did, she's a great character. So they basically photographed her in front of a green screen. The actual doll has all these removable face plates, which look incredibly freaky in the actual thing, because you see this just eyeballs, and
It's
it's
like Game of
weird.
Thrones style, no face.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. There's that, but yeah, it's so they basically shot all those parts, and then had a very talented artist, Jeanette, there, who put it all together in Photoshop. And was able, if you do things like set the frame rate to lower, like 12 frames per second or something like that, you can get kind of that stilted stop motion style look. They also added some stop motion animations into it as well, where they have her arms crossing when you press the A key or something like that, and that's a 30 frame thing that they shot, and you can do that on command in Character Animator. So it's really cool. That's always the cool thing, is to see the merging of traditional stop motion or frame by frame animation with kind of this new performance capture live stuff. I think that's where the real magic happens, and people just start to go crazy. I mean, currently we have you use the keyboard triggers to trigger those things, and people are already running out of keys to use, because they're using all the alphanumeric keys, and they're like, hey, we want more, we want to have our character do this or that, or 100 things instead. So it's we're listening,
see those like
and
programmable surfaces coming into there with like the that like audio like musicians are using and stuff like that. Like
exactly. Yeah. I think, and I think that's something we've thought in the future too, is the more ways that we can give you to control your character, the more options we can give you, the better experience will be. Because, if you are a video game streamer, for example, your hands might not be free to, trigger a certain thing or something like that. So there's this one guy, Scribbly, who has made a name for himself on Twitch. He's got a little TV headed character. And he controls his face with foot pedals, actually, and that is something he basically has them rigged to key commands. But if he wants to be sad or happy or have a beer thing show on his face, he's controlling all that with foot pedals. So people are already pushing what's possible, but I think we're going to give even more options in the future for that.
Yeah, for those of you who are curious where I'm getting all this content, or where Dave is, you're incredibly great about sharing whatever's going on in the community with, great puppets and great tips and tricks. So there's a couple sources I just want to show you guys so you can get way more and really, benefit from this stuff. So first is, Dave, your blog, right? It's at oksamurai.tumblr.com. And Dave, you just kind of post what's cool, a lot of the tips and tricks or success stories that are going on. Even if you want to find out what's going on in your family life, there's lots of cute videos and fun stuff. So that's kind of Dave's personal thing. And then there's also the Adobe Character Animator, sort of the OK Samurai YouTube channel, right? And you can kind of see the latest videos and tips and tricks. And just right there, I assume you made this in After Effects, and you've just like put in all the puppets kind of that have either you've made or maybe other folks have made as well, right?
Yeah, that was a test, because we recently added, in the release before this, we had a dynamic link with After Effects. And so now you're able to take your puppets and then just link them into After Effects, and you'll see all the edits. And if you go back and make a change, it automatically shows up in After Effects. So this was really pushing it to the limits. I think there's like 27 puppets in that scene.
There's a ton.
So,
I mean, it's a huge crowd shot.
So I tried to do it, and it worked. I had to change to half resolution or something like that in After Effects, but it still worked, decently well.
That's
so
pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So you've got so those are some great resources for you guys. You can OK Samurai on YouTube or OK Samurai at Tumblr. Any other places that they should go for great resources on Character Animator?
Those are the best ones. If you're in Character Animator, on the start screen that you first see, there's links to tutorials, including some community tutorials that people have made, and then a bunch of example puppets. So there's a little thing called, we have these 4 template characters that the app ships with, and we can probably show this a little bit later, but there's also a little see more link, and there's this little red monster guy, and if you click on that, that takes you to a ton of free example puppets in a bunch of different styles. Like that Maddie example you just showed, she's available as a free download. Most of the examples that we create to show off walk cycles or head turning or things like that, we'll put it out there for anyone to kind of learn from and try out.
Yeah, I actually have it up right here. I just opened Character Animator the launch screen. It's in beta, so you just see this when you load up. And I think that's one of the great things you guys do is the onboarding process. And this is a credit to you as a UX designer, as just it gets it's just really easy. There's so much resources right at your fingertips that you guys are making this really easy. And there's this great interactive tutorial that gets you started. So it's you keep lowering the bar to entry. So there's no excuse not to start diving in and getting, start animating stuff, right?
Yeah, from a user experience standpoint, we never wanted you to start with a blank screen, right? So we want to either get you into this interactive Saturday morning cartoon style tutorial, or just start performing with one of these template characters. So you click on that Wendigo, abominable snowman character, and within a few seconds you're performing and doing a few things and having fun with them.
And yeah, we shot our own video with that. That was so
there
handy.
You go.
I keep wanting to actually make a custom puppet and do some stuff with that, but for now we're having a grand old time with just the ones you guys have made already.
Well, that's good to hear. So you noticed it opened up Photoshop as well. So if you wanted to make a change in Photoshop, make his pants blue or yellow, or give him a top hat or monocle, you could do that, and then those changes are saved and synced with Character Animator as well.
Cool. Okay, so I think we have just time for maybe a few questions for folks if they're curious about how, anything that we've talked about here. And then I really want to dive into a learning session with you where we can actually, you can go through kind of a getting started and rigging your puppet tutorial if we have a little, maybe a half hour for our learning session. And in the meantime, I'm also very curious, things like we talked about, it's not 2D, it's not 3D yet, but it can do, does great 2D style animation, and even on 3D rendered objects or pictures of 3D objects. The other thing I want to talk about is sort of the rigging of preset animations. Right now, you can trigger keys and do that, but it's very interesting. The more motion capture stuff you bring into the software, the more you can animate directly to the actor with hands and things like that. It seems like the possibilities start getting even more and more interesting. But at this time, I haven't found a way to do motion capture on hands. Is that possible? Is that not yet possible?
So yeah, we are the initial goal out the door was to make Character Animator as accessible to as many people as possible. And most people don't have a depth sensing camera like the Microsoft Kinect or that sort of stuff, or Leap Motion. So our primary focus to begin with was the face and the voice and getting that right. We've started to look into other technologies and other ways. And I think as technology improves and these standard webcams get better tracking technology, because when we're talking and moving our face, we're doing a pretty, we're kind of staying in a basic area, but our hands move very, very fast and move all around. And that can be really hard for a standard webcam to track accurately. So in initial tests we've done, you're losing the signal all the time and it's not a great experience. So once we can get that experience great, we'll integrate that sort of stuff, I think, for sure. People have already started, though, trying some different things and adding stuff. I just saw a guy today, for example, hook up a Leap Motion and have that be a way to trigger the arms moving up and down. So basically when he moved his arms up, it triggered this cycle layers animation to have them move up as well. So people are already kind of pushing the limits of what's possible. And then I think we have these things inherent in Character Animator called behaviors, where they're basically just rules for animation. So if you want your character to walk, you add a walk behavior. You want him to breathe, you add a breathe behavior. And the idea is in the future, we would open those up for anyone to be able to use. And so if you want to add, the ninja behavior or the, some sort of arm capture using a specific device or something you have to hold in your hand or VR controls or something like that, that's something that, people aren't just going to be waiting on us to do. There could be a community that could do that sort of stuff. And I think that's where it's going to get really, really exciting and really blow open the doors. We're still, working on a foundation and getting things as solid and deep and expressive as possible. But I think that's always been part of the long-term goal, is to, just like After Effects has opened up things to developers and creators for different plugins. I think that's an inevitable future for Character Animator as well.
Yeah, that's my question. So the state of an open API or, a some sort of SDK or something for Character Animator. Is that out already, or is not? I mean, where are we at with that?
Not currently out. It's something we've talked about and have made initial, the way that the behaviors have been designed and documented, we're laying the foundation for that. But I think that's, again, that's something we'll see in the future, but no concrete things to announce at this time.
Got it. So it's a very, I think that the Leap Motion example is a really clever idea. That's a way you're kind of doing a hack that a workaround where you're tracking motion, but you're tying it to the scriptable, pre-programmable actions. So it may obviously not be a one-to-one match, but it can be almost very close, right? So that's a pretty clever workaround, I think. And again, you're talking about the Leap Motion, the 3D Oculus controls or any of those sort of trackable, holdable tools that will basically kind of see where you're at in space and then kind of still give you inputs into Character Animator if there's something there ready to receive that trigger and sort of mimic it. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, lots of possibilities for the future, for sure.
So there's a couple questions. It looks like on Facebook there may be some issues with audio. So guys, I apologize for that. If you were not hearing everything, we will definitely record this and post a video later. We're also streaming on YouTube and Periscope. There's also a question from, let's see, looks like from Matt on YouTube. Thanks for stopping by. He's just wondering, like, it looks like he uses Character Animator all the time. It's awesome software, so that's a feedback, and he wants to use it more in his live shows. There's also does Adobe have a Discord channel? I'm curious about that.
I haven't heard about that. I know they do have a Twitch channel though, and they've been doing a lot with promoting that and showing creative artists doing different things, and that chat is pretty lively as well. So I think a lot of the live focus and kind of real-time communication stuff has been via Twitch. Mm-hmm. If there is a Discord channel though, I haven't heard about it.
Okay,
maybe we should start one up. Good idea.
Yeah, could be. Okay, so I think, guys, if there's it looks like no other questions for the moment on what you're talking about, let's go into the learning session. I'd love to just get some hands-on time and you can talk about sort of walk us through sort of the basic getting started on maybe rigging a puppet so that, and talk about how to get going quickly, so we can get kind of a hands-on tutorial here. So Dave, we will be right back with our learning session, but that completes our show for today. So thanks for coming on, and we'll see you, stay on the line, but we'll see you back here for the learning session, okay?
Sounds good, thanks.
Yeah, no worries. So guys, I just want to say thanks for tuning in, and also thanks to our partners for helping us make this show possible: AJA, Blackmagic, Magewell, New Blue, Prompter People, PTZOptics, and Wowza. So again, we use a lot of their stuff and tech behind the scenes, and they're very close partners with us. So this live broadcasting really takes a whole ecosystem of equipment and everybody sort of partners doing different pieces of it to make it work. So thanks so much. And then we will be back next week with another show and JennyQ coming on and talking about live interviewing. I will also be doing a learning session for Skype and Zoom calls and how to bring them into Wirecast so you can do your own remote interviews very easily. So I'll be covering that topic again and in more detail with some new updated information. All right, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.